Alright, so a classmate of yours had some questions about the word problems and some of the trig ratios, so I decided I would make this video to help not only them, but anybody else who might have the same questions. So the first word problem I'm going to go over is this one. It says, if friction is ignored, the time t in seconds required for a block to slide down an inclined plane is given by the formula t equals the square root of 2a over g sine theta cosine theta. Anytime a problem gives you an equation, you're probably going to end up using it. In this case, you do. Where a is the length of feet of the base and g is 32 feet per second. Per second is the acceleration due to gravity. How long does it take for a block to slide down an inclined plane with base a equals 30 feet when theta is 45? So it gives us a lot of information here. We know g is 32, we know a is 30, and theta is 45. From here, it's just simple substitution. T equals the square root of 2a over g sine theta cosine theta. So when we substitute this in, we get 2 times 30 over 32 sine 45 cosine 45. From there, we stick it straight into our calculator, and we'll get t is approximately 1.94 seconds. So that one is just simple substitution. Now the next one is a little bit more difficult. It says, 2 homes are located 8 miles apart, each 1 mile from a road that parallels the ocean. Sally can jog 8 miles per hour along the road, but only 7 miles per hour in the sand. Because of a river between the 2 houses, it is necessary to jog on the sand to the road, continue on the road, and jog on the sand to get from one house to the other. For 0 less than theta less than 90, the time t to get from one house to the other is the function theta as shown. And once again, it gives us a function, and yes, we are going to use it. Now, it says calculate the time t for theta equals 30 degrees. How long is Sally on the paved road? So first things first, calculate the time for 30 degrees. This will give us the overall time it takes for Sally to travel. So here we get t of 30, good morning, plus 1 over 2 sine 7 sine theta. Oh, in this case, theta is 30 degrees. Minus 1 over 4 tangent theta, once again 30 degrees. And when we substitute that into our calculator, we get a nice answer of 1.14. So if Sally travels at a 30-degree angle from her house to the paved road, it'll take her 1.14 hours of total travel. However, the question also asks, how long is Sally on the paved road? So I'm going to come up here. And the paved road in total from house to house is 8 miles long. However, we are only looking at the portion between the red dots because by Sally cutting at that angle theta, she's removing part of that paved road. All right, to determine what this yellow section is, we first have to determine what x is. And notice, x will be on both sides. So we have ourselves a right triangle. Which, Miss Younger, come on, your drawing sucks. Alright, that one's just as bad, but whatever. So here we have a 30-degree angle. We have 1, and we're trying to find x. Well, using our trig ratios, we know, and we'll just do a general formula, theta, that tangent theta equals 1 over x. So to get x by itself, x is 1 over tangent theta. So for part A, we get x equals 1 over tangent 30 which gets us an answer of 1.73. So I know that this section right here is 1.73, I know that this section here is 1.73, and the entire section is 8. So I'm going to subtract 2 1.73s from 8, and that's going to get us that entire yellow section of how much of the paved road that Sally is on. And so in this case, she's only on the paved road for 4.54 miles. Well, if she's on the road for 4.54 miles and she travels 8 miles per hour, how long is she on the paved road? To find the answer, you take the total number of miles traveled on the paved road divided by her speed, and in this case, she gets 0.57 hours. So we'll put 0.57 hours. Alright, so now we're going to do that again for part B, but this time it asks for T of 45. So T of 45 is 1 plus 2 over 7 sine 45 minus 1 over 4 tangent 45. And when we substitute that into our calculator, we get 1.15. So 1.15 hours is her total time, including the sand and the paved road. But once again, we want to find just the paved road. So we're going to use x equals 1 over tangent 45 this time, because we're cutting at a 45-degree angle. Well, that equals 1. We'll go through the same steps. 8 minus twice the length of x equals 6. Right, so she was on the paved road for 6 miles. So she's on the paved road for 6 miles and she travels at 8 miles per hour. She's gonna be on the paved road for 0.75 hours. Alright, so that was part B. Now part C, I'll just come over here. We'll do T of 60 equals 1 plus 2 over 7 sine 60 minus 1 over 4 tangent 60. And we get an answer of 1.19 hours. 1.19 hours. So it's the longest. And why do we think it's the longest? Well, because she's cutting at that 60-degree angle, the hypotenuse is the longest, which means we're spending quite a lot of time in the sand. So now we'll go through the same process. We get x equals 1 over tangent 60, which equals 0.58. So we'll go 8 minus 2 times 0.58. And when we put that into our calculator, we get 6.84. So she's 6.84 miles on the paved road. We'll divide that by 8. And it's going to take her 0.86 hours. So we'll come over here, 0.86. All right, so that is that word problem. Notice A, B, and C all did the same methods, and we had to use the information that was provided and break it up into several bits and pieces. All right, so now let's take a look at these ratios. It says find the exact value of each remaining trig function of theta, and it gives us cosine theta is negative 3 over 10, and pi is less than theta less than 3 pi over 2. That tells us we are in third quadrant, and in the third quadrant both x and y are negative. That's important because we know sine theta is y over r, cosine theta is x over r, and we know this is negative 3 over 10, and we know tangent theta is y over x. Now we have cosecant theta is just the inverse of sine, so r over y. Secant theta is the inverse of cosine, so r over x. And cotangent theta is the inverse of tangent, so x over y. Well, based on the fact that they gave us cosine theta is negative 3/10, that tells me x is negative 3 and r equals 10. So we're going to have to use the unit circle. X squared plus y squared equals r squared. Well, in this case, we have negative 3 squared plus y squared equals 10 squared. So 9 plus y squared equals 100. Y squared equals 91. So y equals the square root of 91. So now we just have to finish out our trig functions. However, we know that we're in the third quadrant, so even though we had y equals the square root of 91, we know that y is negative. So we're going to plop in that negative. Alright, so y is the square root of negative 91 over r, which is 10. And tangent theta is the square root of negative 91 over x, which is negative 3. Well, two negatives make a positive, so we can get rid of those negative signs. Alright, now we have r over y. R was 10. Y is the negative square root of 91. Ooh, I do not like a square root in the denominator, so we have to rationalize by multiplying by the square root of 91 over the square root of 91. What we get is negative 10 square root of 91 over 91. Alright, next we have secant theta, which was just the inverse of cosine theta, so we get 10 over negative 3. And then cotangent theta, we do 3 over the square root of 91. But once again, we do not want that radical on the bottom, so we have to rationalize. And we get 3 radical 91 over 91. Alright, let's do one more of those. It says find the exact value of each remaining trig function of theta. So once again, we're just going to use our ratios. Sine theta equals y over r. Cosine theta equals x over r. Tangent theta equals y over x. We'll do their inverses, so we get cosecant theta equals r over y. Secant theta equals r over x. And cotangent theta equals x over y. Now we're given that sine theta is negative 5 over 13. We're also told that theta is between 180 degrees and 270 degrees. So once again, we are in quadrant 3. So both x and y are negative. We also know that we don't know what x equals yet. We do know that y equals negative 5 and r equals 13. So now using our unit circle, we get x squared plus y squared equals r squared. X squared plus negative 5 squared equals 13 squared. X squared plus 25 equals 169. X squared equals 144. So x is going to equal negative 12, and that's because we're in that quadrant 3. Now it's just filling out our ratios. We get negative 12 over 13 for cosine. For tangent, we get negative 5 over negative 12, which is the same as 5/12 because two negatives make a positive. Then we'll do our inverse functions, and we get negative 13 over 5, negative 13 over 12, and 12/5, because it is just the inverse functions. Alrighty, hope you found that helpful. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.